Today's First Alert afternoon weather update is brought to you by Lockhart Roofing.
Good Wednesday afternoon. First Alert meteorologist Diane Phillips hanging out here on our New Year's Eve. We have just a few hours before we are going to be welcoming in 2026, and I know a lot of us are probably feeling that rush of time flying by. So we're going to be, though, talking about a quieter forecast. So we're going to be enjoying that. We could take any little bit of an advantage to kind of help to make it a little bit easier going into a new year when we're trying to get those resolutions off the ground and just any adjustments that we want to try to make. So, of course, always the new year bringing in just a couple of changes. But as we get our New Year's started, we might have then some weather for if you are going to be doing some traveling that you want to be aware of. As I mentioned, we're in pretty good shape to kind of keep the forecast a little bit more on the quiet side. If you are going to be doing some partying this evening, maybe you're thinking about just doing dinner a little bit later. We are going to have temperatures into the lower 20s for the 7 and 8 o'clock hour, and we can even then start to see some of those teens come in as early as 8, 9 o'clock. So we're going to continue to kind of see a cold forecast and a cold beginning to 2026. And I've been first alerting us to some snow shower chances. We'll talk about that in the forecast, but I kind of wanted to get to the big picture here, kind of that most important part where we are going to be finding that we don't have too many snow icons for folks who are going to be out tonight, but we do still have some snow chances. With enough cold air and the Great Lakes open for business, we are going to be finding the potential that we do have at least a little bit of lake effect. So as we go through this forecast, one of the things to kind of keep in mind is that we're already tracking some snow showers. We had some flurries earlier this morning, so we are finding on our pinpoint Doppler, we've had kind of this push of energy come through. Some pretty light returns coming across Roscommon, Ogama, Iosco counties. You can kind of see those brighter blues that are north and west of mid-Michigan, and even setting up along 131. So we'll be tracking this line as this is going to be pushing through for the next couple of hours. I even anticipate it to be around for the evening commute, so that is going to be something that we want folks using that First Alert weather app to keep an eye to those conditions. I'll bring up the QR code here. Usually I do leave it on the screen on the stream, but you will find that app is a great tool to have here because you'll be able to check radar before kind of hitting the roads for your nightly plans. You'll also be able to check our temperatures as we are going to be talking about a lot of cold air coming in. So that is free to download. You can get that on the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. So that's a great tool to have. I know we always kind of want to remind you though that that's there. So if you already have it, we appreciate you using that tool. We're always happy to kind of help you out and make sure that you're staying on top of the forecast. But we are going to continue to see our conditions to be a little bit snowy here for the afternoon and evening. I am going to kind of take this moment here to check some of our local sensors. So we do have snowflakes being reported at the sensor in West Branch, the same for Oscoda, Houghton Lake, and we're even seeing some lighter returns coming in off of Brown Airport and even the airport in Bad Axes, showing that there's a little bit of precipitation out there. So it might be a little bit of fog and kind of mist that we're picking up. I actually will show you our Bay City camera because you can just kind of see it's a little bit hazy out into the distance. So that kind of aligns with what we're looking at. And I will bring up just a couple of other cameras, take just a little bit of a tour here. So here we are at Central. So we have a couple of flurries across campus in Mount Pleasant, and even the visibility is kind of looking out. Of course, the football stadium's out there. So it's maybe just kind of a murky day as we are going to be kind of trying to get this weather cleared out so then we have some easy travel to get to our destinations tonight. But we are tracking those snow showers, and this is only kind of the beginning. So at least it is starting out on a lighter note, but we'll continue to track that for the afternoon. And this is a pretty good viewpoint. Last time I had checked in here on our downtown Flint camera, we were able to get a good look. So we are kind of picking up on some fog and some mist. That's what the sensor is saying at the Flint Bishop Airport. And it is kind of splattering the lens a little bit. Not really a clear look here. I am also a little bit worried that we could have some glazing or a little bit of drizzle. And also that camera, one, is higher up, but also it's elevated, so it's definitely going to be a little bit colder than what the ground temperatures are. But it's not like our ground temperatures are all that warm either. So I would just want to first alert folks that If you are in Shiawassee, Genesee, or even Lapeer counties, or even heading a little bit further south, if you're kind of along I-69, you kind of have this chance for this mist drizzle to come through, and with temperatures below freezing, that still could be a little bit icy. So just be wary while you're traveling. It looks like our camera here in Birch Run is also picking up on a little bit of that return. So not maybe the most pleasant afternoon if you're maybe running groceries or just getting a bite to eat because you have the day off. And taking a check here of our camera along US 10, you're going to be finding that this one's also a little bit murky on the lens. Our sensors there closer towards Midland are saying snow showers. So it's really kind of hard to pick up on those flurries. So again, you might just be seeing more of a mist or a drizzle, but we are seeing that precipitation come through. So we'll be tracking that here for the next couple of hours. When we look at our hour-by-hour forecast, you are going to find that it is a little bit slow to kind of bring in that information, but I am kind of keeping tabs that it is here after lunch. So originally that morning forecast is still on track, not a lot of changes, and we'll just continue to kind of see this moisture build in. So already we are seeing kind of that fog and that mist. If we can really get close to that saturation rate, we'll just continue to see those snow showers build in. So it's kind of more as this wave pushes through, we have more widespread chances to be seeing snow throughout much of mid-Michigan. Still could have a couple of breaks and pause points in it, but we will find that we are still going to be looking at kind of the last little bit of this wave coming through into the thumb and along I-69 towards Flint around 5 o'clock. So again, this is kind of like the last push, but that does also align with our commute. So if you do commute I-69, or even if you're going to be taking maybe a drive along 75 going to Detroit for tonight, if you have some plans in the Motor City, I would just kind of keep an eye to those roadway conditions. Even if it is just some lighter snow that we are expecting, you still can run into some slick spots. I know I was talking with Christine this morning. I was saying that even just the lighter snow can just kind of give that slimy feeling under our tires. So even though we can kind of still easily make it through the snow, it still doesn't mean that it's not going to be slippery. So just don't let those kind of quiet, smaller systems sneak up on you while you're driving. If you are going to be out this evening, though, we will start to see those lake effect chances cutting back for us. So we do have some of those bands that are going to start to set up. So we do see that closer towards 127 around 9 o'clock. So even as far south as Clare and then coming in towards Gladwin County and then even around Houghton Lake, we're going to be watching to see where that band sets up because that's going to be where we do see some pretty quick accumulations. And you may also find that visibilities aren't super great. But really beyond that band, that's kind of the only thing that we have to talk about regarding snow as the clock strikes 12 tonight. So as we roll into 2026, lake effect is still firing, but we just don't find that it's not producing as much snow as before. You can see that we still have some pretty good snow bands over Lake Huron, so those are going to be traveling over into Canada. But locally, it kind of looks like it almost sets up along 75 where we see that band, but then that should just kind of be more flurries coming into the Tri-Cities and into Flint. So if you are going to be celebrating out tonight, just kind of keep an eye to radar to see how that band sets up. But we will kind of start to see that ease a little bit as we get towards daybreak on Thursday. And with a lot of folks off, you are going to find on New Year's Day that much of the forecast is quiet. Now, we do have a lot of cold air that's going to be coming in. And also the Great Lakes don't have a lot of ice coverage. So that means that lake effect is still going to be something to monitor. May just be some lake effect clouds. I am a little optimistic in the forecast that we can get you some sun in in mid-Michigan. And so I've seen some chances here. It may not be full sunshine, but considering the winter season, we really don't get a lot of that vitamin D. We are going to be taking any chance that we can and hoping that that really works out for us. So if you can get a few minutes of some sun, that's kind of the one perk of lake effect, is though it does typically create a lot of cloud cover. Sometimes those clouds are able to break apart a little bit easier, so then we can get a little bit of sun. Let's talk about snow totals, because we are going to be finding that overall this push here this afternoon doesn't really stack up to all that much snow. We are going to be looking at conditions that still bring up those snow totals to be around 1 inch to 2 inches, and that's going to be closer towards the thumb and along I-69. So you can see closer towards Flint, Lapeer, we got that 1.6 there, and we do have a portion of northern Huron County kind of right by the water with some of that lake effect coming through that we could still pick up some of those more higher amounts. And then we also have that banding in Roscommon County, so that looks to be kind of aligning closer towards 127. but we still could see that kind of shift closer a little bit further east towards 75. So that's going to be something that where we could pick up about 1 to 3 inches. You can see that Houghton Lake sensor kind of picking up 2.5 there. So those are just some of our spots where we could have some higher totals coming into the Tri-Cities along US 10 and kind of coming up further north. You can kind of see that ribbon there that we just have about an inch or less to be possible. So this isn't going to be, again, a ton of snow, but it may just be enough to where it makes roadways a little bit slippery. You might not be able to stop as fast. You may find that while you're turning, it kind of gets a little bit slippery while doing so if you're going too fast. So just kind of be mindful of the conditions. Overall, very much passable, but it's always kind of good to have that reminder that even a lighter snow can be just as tricky as a heavy snow that really kind of stacks up. So that's what we're going to be watching here is going to be the snowfall chances for us today. We are going to take another quick break because we have to talk about the cold air that's coming in tomorrow. So we'll be first alerting you to some pretty cold wind chills after we take this quick 60-second break, and then we are going to come right back here to the First Alert Desk. Welcome back. We are going to be talking about the cold air coming in, but I was also just going through some of our comments from our Facebook Live kind of chats there, and so I want to shout out a big thanks to Mike for letting us know that he is picking up on that freezing drizzle there in Schwartz Creek. It's always good to have those reports to know what's actually making it to the ground level. Of course, cameras, they're a little bit higher up, so we don't always have a good look of what's actually on the ground level, but it definitely makes sense with kind of that mist, that drizzle coming through, and then temperatures being below freezing for us to have those conditions. And then in Gladwin, Sherry said that she's got some snow there. So we will find that we kind of have a little bit of that mixed precipitation. So just kind of be mindful of your roadways here if you are going to be doing some afternoon travel or maybe picking up some groceries before everybody heads on over to celebrate the new year in. As we do take another check of that pinpoint Doppler, it doesn't really pick up on that drizzle that we do have throughout Genesee County. But of course, we are picking up on some of that snow a little bit better on the pinpoint Doppler that we're seeing towards the Gladwin area. Let's also talk about those temperatures because that's kind of be the big thing going forward. Air temperatures, as I had mentioned, are below freezing, so that is why we are concerned with that freezing drizzle and that snow making our roadways slippery. You are going to be finding that our temperatures are currently sitting into the low to mid 20s. We really haven't had a huge change when it comes to our temperature variation because yesterday morning we were into the teens. We only warmed up to the mid 20s. Last night we fell back into the upper teens, and then we only gained about 5 degrees back to where we are seeing our readings at 20 degrees though in Houghton Lake, 24 in Tawas, Caseville, Harbor Beach. We're at 25 for Marlette, Lapeer, and we are at 23 at MBS Airport. We have 24 in Flint, 26 in Mount Pleasant. So we are finding that this is going to allow for us to have some slick conditions. Just a reminder, anything that is wet, of course, is going to be freezing up when we are this cold. But another thing to think about is the wind chill. We are going to be finding that our winds pick up a little bit better here this afternoon. This morning we had a couple of wind chills for a few of our communities that did drop around 8-9 degrees, and so we have seen a little bit of a better return here to where it feels like it's about 13 degrees in Gladwin. It does feel like it's 7 in Houghton Lake and 8 in Oscoda, but it has feels like temperatures from Port Hope over to Caro at around 10 degrees, 14 in Flint, 10 at MBS Airport, and 11 in Alma. So those temperatures still feeling cold, and this is only beginning. We have more cold air that's going to be coming in for tomorrow. Look at the wind chills on New Year's Day. If you maybe have some plans to take the holiday decorations off the house, think again. I would not recommend it because starting out in the morning, wind chills are going to be sub-zero. You can see those negative dashes showing up. We don't at least get close to that zero mark until the late morning, even almost going into the afternoon. So it might just be a day to kind of watch some football or even just watch a movie with the family, because into the afternoon, wind chills are going to be into the single digits. You can only see that it'll be feeling like 5 degrees come 3, 4, 5 o'clock. So not a lot of heat here if you plan to be outside. If you do have outdoor plans, make sure that you're taking some breaks indoors so that you can warm up, and also just have hats, gloves, coats, extra layers on, anything to help you kind of feel comfortable in the cold air that's going to be rolling in. We do have for New Year's Day a high set at 18 degrees. We are going to be finding partly cloudy skies though, so that means a little bit of sun is going to be possible. We will also see though that westerly winds are going to be around 10 to 15 miles per hour, and we still have some gusts though that can get around 25 miles per hour, so that's why we have that wind chill factor in the forecast for Thursday. Let's go and talk about some of those winds because it has been kind of quiet so far today. I'm going to pull up our current map of wind gusts. Last time I did this, we didn't really have too many strong winds. We are kind of seeing those still hovering through the thumb with the wind gusts in Kara around 22 miles per hour, 19 in Bad Axe, 25 in Port Hope, 20 mile per hour wind gusts in Houghton Lake. So it's still enough to add that extra bite to the air, but thankfully it's nothing like what we had on Monday when we had that first alert weather day. And also you can kind of see that we have kind of that red bullseye just towards our west around 96 and 131. So that's going to kind of signal that we can also see some of those winds picking up here this afternoon as we have this wave pushing through. So not only can it be bringing us some snow showers, but you may find that it's also bringing us some gusty conditions as well. When we do look at future wind gusts this afternoon, I'm still going to kind of keep that range around 20, 25 miles per hour. And I really don't kind of want to rule out 30 mile per hour winds. Again, as this wave pushes through, we may find that those winds try to pick up at least a little bit of speed. So we may have some isolated spots that can kind of get that burst of wind to really pick up and get going. But as we go right around midnight, so this is probably right after you're helping your friends clean up just a little bit and you're heading home, you are going to be finding that our winds are trying to settle down, and so we are going to be seeing those around 20, 25 miles per hour, and then we continue to see those drop back during the night. So those are going to be pretty similar to what we experienced last night when they were hovering kind of right around 15 miles per hour. So at least during the night we've been able to see at least a little bit of relief, but still a lot of our afternoons have been quite blustery at times. So just something to kind of keep in mind is that it's just kind of those winter winds that just continue to hold, and we'll still see on New Year's Day that we are going to have yet some breezy conditions. Not anything like the beginning of the week, but it's still just going to be noticeable when it adds that extra chill into the air. We had kind of talked at the beginning of our live stream about what our New Year's Eve is going to be looking like. You are going to be finding that it kind of cools right out tonight, so just be mindful that we are going to be having the wet weather drying out, but that still doesn't mean that you can't wear those festive sweaters. You can even have quite the outfit for tonight, so just make sure that it does include layers and sleeves so that you're a little bit more comfortable, because we'll actually be taking those lows down right around 10 degrees. Some of us may even be getting into the single digits. This is going to be happening a little bit closer towards daybreak, going towards tomorrow morning, but still, that's pretty cold. The good news is that we don't have school and a lot of businesses are going to be closed, so not too many folks that are going to have to worry about those cold, low temperatures, but still something to keep in mind if you do have to head into the office and put in a little bit of work. So we are going to have the cold conditions here for a little bit longer. As we take yet another check of that pinpoint Doppler, just kind of keeping an eye on the conditions here. We have that snow that we're picking up right now in Mount Pleasant. We're also seeing that coming through Clare. And if you're in Midland, you'll probably start to see some of that snow here shortly. This is in Southern Bay County. This is the one camera that I have that's at least a little bit closer. And looks like, yep, there's a couple of flurries that are able to come through. So we are going to continue to keep an eye on changing road conditions, be tracking the snow as it pushes across here for the next couple of hours. So just kind of be patient if you are headed out on roadways. Here's an update on our Birch Run camera. So it looks like we may just have some rain. I am a little bit worried that it could be that freezing drizzle going on. It looks very similar to what our camera did in downtown Flint. It looks like folks are still driving right along at posted speeds, so just again be cautious. I know I might not be cutting it at 70 miles per hour if I were on 75, but we just want everybody keeping an eye to the conditions where they're at. And this just kind of backs up that freezing drizzle mention that we had out of Schwartz Creek, because when we see the camera here in downtown Flint, definitely getting that bathroom glass look to where we can kind of see through it, but we can't really see through it. So we are going to be first alerting folks here in Genesee County and along I-69 that you can run into some slippery and slick roadways. So be cautious while you are outside, because that drizzle can make things ice up pretty quickly, especially bridges and overpasses. So that's just something to keep in mind there. One of our other cameras that we've been watching is in Mount Pleasant. Let's bring up that because we do have those snow showers there. So visibility is maybe slightly improved, but we are going to continue to see these snow showers roll in. As far as the pavement, you can kind of see maybe those service drives not getting as much attention here on breaks. Sidewalks are looking pretty good for anybody who's still hanging out on campus, but we do want to first alert you that, of course, this snow, that's going to be sticking with it being cold. Let's also do a traffic update, because roadways overall this morning, the main highway system was pretty good. We just had a couple of slow spots. It was on secondary roads. It was also maybe some residential streets that didn't get as much salt, or they also just didn't get plowed yesterday. And with a small enough amount, a lot of plow crews don't go out, which is very much understandable. But then when we kind of drive on it, it can create that ice pack where we're trying to drive, and then that gets a little bit slippery for us. But even with that freezing drizzle and the snow that's coming in now, main highways still seem to be managing, and we have green all across the map from north to south, east to west. Looks like we're holding our own. Here into Genesee County, I was watching here during the morning for a couple of spots of yellow to show up. So we'd have a spot here on M15, M21, and even M13. We would just kind of see some spots that would show up, but we aren't really seeing too much of that activity here this morning. So that's good news that we're kind of able to hold our own. Even coming across the thumb, had a little bit of yellow there, seeing more green now. Tri-Cities, and then coming over towards 127, not noticing any slowdown. So even though we do have views like this in Mount Pleasant, so this is what it's going to kind of be if you are out on 127 in the highway, visibilities don't seem to be dropping too bad, but of course you still could have some slick spots on those roads, so something to keep in mind. And then as we look at our northern counties, we do have a little more yellow here. We are picking that up here into Gladwin County along M30 and then M18. So if you are going to be traveling through the Gladwin area, or if you're going to be headed up a little bit closer towards West Branch, you may run into a couple of slick spots. And then 75, though, seems to be okay. We were a little bit slower because of some of those snow bands this morning in Roscommon County, but we made some good improvements. And we also had some slow spots from Algray to Tawas, right there along the shoreline on 23, but we're in pretty good shape there. So overall, not too bad. For the holiday, kind of looking at some of our extended zones, if you're maybe going to be traveling to the Lansing area, again, we do have that drizzle along I-69, but it doesn't seem to be having too many road impacts. M52 is looking good, so kind of getting over to the Lansing area, not seeing too many issues there. But around the Detroit area, of course, a couple of incidents, but at least the map isn't really kind of lighting up with some of those yellows, oranges, or red. So overall, we do have some accidents, but it may not necessarily be weather related that we're seeing, considering a lot of other locations are looking pretty good here on our map. So just be mindful on your roadways. I know, kind of sounding like a broken record and repeating myself, but it's just always good to be on a little more of a cautious side. On that 7-day forecast, once we kind of get through the snow showers for today, we do find that we have a stretch of dry weather. So we are going to have that chance at seeing some sun on Thursday, and another chance kind of as we go throughout the weekend. I'm going to be a little optimistic in the forecast. But at least if you maybe are going to be gathering with friends and family to do still some holiday gatherings and celebrations, weekend travel looking good. Friday, Saturday, Sunday shouldn't have too many issues getting around mid-Michigan or even across the state. So that is good news for families that celebrate a little bit closer towards New Year's. But as we go into Monday and Tuesday, if you're headed back to work or school, I know a lot of schools are headed back on the 5th. So we are going to be finding that we do have a couple of snow showers. When I was looking at the forecast, it looked to be closer towards the morning, actually coming in during the night and lingering into Monday morning. So hopefully we can kind of get that timed out a little bit better. But I know a lot of folks might not mind having an extra day of Christmas vacation. But we are going to be just kind of keeping an eye to that pattern change going into Monday and Tuesday. And with our temperatures getting out of the 20s from the weekend and closer towards freezing, we'll just be watching for any precipitation types. We've been kind of seeing a mix of some rain and some snow coming in. So that chance is kind of rolling in on Tuesday. The one thing is that a lot of the data has been very muddy and foggy around Monday, Tuesday. So that precipitation type timing and coverage is very much up in the air. We know we have that low pressure system coming in. Just really how that develops and evolves is going to be the questions that we have to put together here during this dry and quiet stretch. Some of the nights also coming up are going to be dropping down into the teens. So with that cold air coming in, just be prepared for that furnace to run a little bit more frequently. But overall, at least we have a manageable weekend forecast, maybe some easier travel compared to what we had last Friday when we had that ice coming in. We could use a couple of quiet days to do some cleanup, especially for folks in the Farwell area, because we've kind of been checking in there. One of the good things is that we have noticed that those power outages continue to be a little bit more sparse on the map. So a lot of us are seeing some improvements. We only have a couple of locations. You can see there west of 127 that we do have some outages on that consumer map. And even when we were checking in with DTE for the thumb, much of the film was looking so much better. So those crews, we want to give them a thank you for helping to kind of clean everything up for us and to get us back online with that power. That's always something that we like to have, especially going into New Year's. But as we wrap it up here this afternoon, I just want to share a quick programming note with you. We do not have our normal newscast schedule for today. So if you are going to be trying to catch TV5 News, our next newscast is actually going to be at 6 p.m. So we do not have a 4 p.m. show. We also do not have a 5 or a 5:30 newscast. So make sure you tune in. It's going to be after the Sun Bowl. That's going to be airing on CBS. So right after that game is when you're going to be able to check the latest news and headlines from what our team and crews have been working on here for you on this New Year's Eve. Plus, Chris will have your latest forecast then as well. And then our next live stream is also going to be at 9 o'clock. So that one might be a little bit shorter because another programming note, because of the New Year's Eve coverage that we'll be getting out of New York, the news will be at 10 p.m. on TV5. So make sure that you kind of set that clock a little bit earlier so that you don't miss out on the local news before you head into that primetime coverage. So just a couple of changes because of the holiday. I know a lot of people don't like missing out on the music. They like to see the fireworks and celebrations around the world. So that same coverage is going to be here coming in from CBS. So make sure that you have a wonderful holiday, kind of tuning in and joining TV5 and being flexible. And then another programming note is that TV5 Wake Up is going to start at 5 a.m. on New Year's Day. So that will give folks maybe an extra half hour if they were up late to kind of go before they can catch that local news. So just some reminders here of some programming notes. But of course, we are going to continue to work around the clock to make sure you have the latest news, weather, and sports. I do appreciate you giving me some of your time here this afternoon so that we can keep an eye on that New Year's forecast. I hope that you're able to stay warm and that you have a fun and safe holiday. But we look forward to seeing you right back here into the new year.
Thank you for joining us. Today's stream has been brought to you by Lockhart Roofing.